France's Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, along with the ministers for both Justice and the Interior, are being questioned this Tuesday by the National Assembly over judicial lapses in the handling of the suspect in the murder of an 11-year-old girl. They faced the Senate this morning, despite apologising last week for what he called a huge failure in the treatment of serious allegations against the suspect. Justice Minister Gérald Darmanin on Monday refused to resign. On Monday, some 200 protests were held across France as public anger grows. Caris Garland has the details.
His department is under fire, and Gérald Darmanin himself is facing calls to resign. Addressing a Senate hearing on Tuesday, the French Justice Minister once again pointed to judicial failings that led to the death of 11-year-old Lyhanna. Failings, he insists, that are not a result of his own actions.
What's missing in this case is not a new law, new resources. It is not digital problems. It's simply prioritizing rape complaints. And I'm afraid one of the problems is that we collectively treated this complaint like any other, and it wasn't understood that police custody happens at the start, not at the end.
The complaint Darmanin is referring to was filed by the mother of a 10-year-old girl who had reported being raped by the main suspect in Lyhanna's murder, Jerome Barella. The complaint was filed in August 2025, but police still hadn't questioned Barella by the time of Lyhanna's disappearance. Now, the girl's mother is suing the government for gross negligence.
My daughter is a victim. She's suffering. She suffers every day because she saw Lyhanna die. She heard about it on the news and it's the same person. Why wasn't he arrested? Why?
Also on Tuesday, Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu convened a meeting of several ministers to decide on new measures to protect children and to try to address the public anger. Among those being discussed are harsher penalties for serial rape, changes to the statute of limitations, and the need to justify the dismissal of cases involving sexual offences. In France, only 7% of complaints for sexual assault of a minor result in a conviction, according to Civis, an independent commission.
Well, for more now, we could bring in our senior reporter, James André, who was at the French National Assembly for us today. James, you were at Matignon this morning when there was a cabinet meeting. You're now at the National Assembly. What have MPs' questions been focusing on today?
Well, it depends what side of the aisle you stand on, but what we've seen is some pretty pointed questions to the government, including maybe the first one was by Gabrielle Catala. She is an MP with France Unbowed, and her question was quite direct. She said, there have been some severe shortcomings in the way this case was treated. She said that the Justice Minister had to know about these shortcomings and did not act upon them. So for her, he needs to step down. So this is, of course, something that Gérald Darmanin, the Justice Minister, has clearly pushed aside very directly since the beginning of this crisis, saying that he would not step down, that he wanted investigation, he wanted work to be done. And, well, here at the National Assembly, he simply said, look, we're not here to do politics, we're here to solve a social problem, which is the fact that a lot of these allegations, or when there are some people who are flagged for these kind of behavior, this needs to be addressed more seriously. So we saw, various MPs from various parties coming up with, of course, different demands on. There are some propositions on the table which have been detailed by Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu, who said that he did not see this as just merely a case, but he says this, in his view, is a crisis that the whole of the French society is going through at the moment and that needs to be addressed.
And of course, there is growing public pressure for judicial reform and also for accountability. Are there any developments on either of those fronts that you can tell us about, James?
Well, for now, the government is studying four possibilities that were detailed earlier on by the Prime Minister. First, there is the fact that they want harsher penalties for serial rapists. For now, in France, the maximum penalty is 20 years in prison. They would like to switch that to life in prison in order to make sure that those type of offenders are put behind bars for a very long time and to protect the public. The second idea is to ask the judges to motivate their decisions when they decide to drop a case. That is something that was discussed this morning at Matignon and appears quite important. And then there is the fact that the Prime Minister says that there needs to be an important discussion about prescription. Now, this is something that is not completely consensual at the National Assembly. We heard that earlier on when he talked about it, with one part of the aisle rejecting the idea of having no prescription at all. But so there will be definitely a debate. What the government wants to do is basically push a piece of legislation, a bill that is on the table, has been since a few days already, that it's already been validated by the State Council, the Conseil d'État here, and that could be pushed through quite rapidly. The idea is to enhance this bill and to get it through as quickly as possible. This is very much the line the Prime Minister is on. When it comes to the Justice Minister, what he wants to do is potentially have a very thorough investigation into the roles of the various prosecutors and judges who have been handling these 70,000 cases that are on the table at the moment and have not been treated yet. He's given a deadline till the 14th of July for all these cases to be reviewed, and then he says that he will potentially take action against judges who would have not done their job in the Lyhanna case. He says that this is very important for accountability of the judicial institution here in France. So you see there are two visions opposing each other, because the Prime Minister was very clear that in his view there is no finger pointing that is required towards policemen or judges. He was actually applauded by part of the MPs on that, but the Justice Minister is very much on a line where he wants to get the culprits of what he sees as a severe malfunction of the judicial system.